everyone, after this video you don't have to know anything about what to play against the c4. We will get rid of that forever. We will recommend d takes c4. In this video we will tackle four main response here for white, probably most played moves. Mainly knight f3, e3, e4 and knight c3. These four moves will be discussed and you will get very nice position, very good fighting position out of these four replies. But let's talk about why do we choose, or why do you have to have dc4 as one of your ideas and one of your weapons against the Queen's Gambit. First of all, Queen's Gambit is one of the main openings played, maybe because Queen's Gambit series, I'm not sure. This is actually kind of a joke, but it's one of the most played chess openings. First of all, why c4? Because white started the game hoping that you will give him the center, which is probably the main principle and the general principle of the opening. So we say no, but then he said, okay, c4, let's give something. Let's give the c4 pawn, and that's why it's called the gambit. You give the pawn in order to gain something in between or instead. That's why c4 is played. But after dc4, you have 5 reasons to play this opening. First of all, you choose the game. What do I mean by that? If you choose, for example, e6, you don't choose the game. Because after knight c3 and knight f6, now white has the choice. Either c takes d5, or continuing with knight f3, or bishop f4, or bishop g5. But in terms of pawn structure, he has the idea when to exchange and when not. And you need to be very well prepared in many situations. While in dc4, you don't have to do that, first of all. Second of all, you will get a free development. What do I mean? After e6 again, for example, now there's an issue. The issue with this bishop. Sometimes you stuck with this bishop or need very long journey of b6, bishop b7, and then dc4 at certain level in order to improve the bishop. But in our repertoire and in the Queen's Gambit Accepted, you take and most likely the bishop will go to g4 or to f5. It depends. So you got free development. Third of all, this is a rich opening actually. It's not one line opening, so you will not be under your opponent's preparation, even if you knew that you will play the Queen's Gambit Accepted. For example, after knight f3, knight f6, e3, we will recommend here bishop g4 in order to get what's so-called the free development. But e6 is a very good choice, and this is actually the choice of Gukish against Nakamura in the very important game of his life, the last round in the candidate tournaments before he became the world champion. So it's a very rich opening, and it's actually justified on the top level. Some openings, like for example, I can recommend you, or I can explain you some ideas like b6, but when you look about top chess levels, for example 2500 and above, or maybe 2300 and above, you might not see this opening frequently, maybe once in a while. But Queen's Gambit Accepted, no, it's played actually. If you watch an open tournament, I'm sure each tournament has 3 to 4, 5, maybe more games that has the Queen's Gambit Accepted. That's very important. So you learn something every tournament you're watching. Your opening is not a very rare opening that you lose the chance to learn from the very top. And last of all, which is the 5th point, you can play for the win. It's not a very rigid opening. For example, the exchange slab is a very rigid opening. The structure is very symmetrical. You cannot mainly play or pretending that you can play for the opening. Actually, you cannot. But with dc4, actually you can. I'm sorry for the long introduction, but it's very important to know how to choose your openings. And let's get into details. Now if knight f3, we'll start with this move, one of the most played move actually. The point is to play e3 next, and then bishop takes c4. Actually no, let's start with e3. Why? Because after e3, our move is very interesting. e5. Again, as we said, we will get the free development. Now e5, we are attacking the center. And if you go d5, we are attacking the center again. If you're protecting, we are attacking the center again. And if you take, we could go simply c6 in this position. And if you take, I exchange queens, your king is stuck, knight c6, I have free development, I castle, rook d8 is coming. Black is completely fine. So let's get back in this position after e5. The principal move is bishop takes c4. And now I will recommend e takes d4. I don't understand why, but this move is played too many games. And this is actually a bad move. Why? Because white will have the isolated pawn and probably a worse pawn structure. For example, 3 islands, 1 island, 2 islands, 3 islands, while I have 2. And the one who has the better pawn structure usually is happy to go for endings. So queen d4, I do believe it's a bad move. And now you have simple ideas, simple development like knight f6, bishop e7, castling, knight bd7, knight b6, knight d5, and the bishop will go either f5, either g4, either e6. It depends on the what white is going to play. So after c takes or e takes d4, knight f6, and after knight f3, this is a very instructive moment. Now you have 3 choices. Bishop b4, most played move, tempting one. Bishop d6, probably the most active one, and bishop e7. And how to pick one of these? Actually, in a normal day, I will choose bishop d6. Bishop b4 is not so clear to me because there's bishop d2, knight c3, and knight d2, many options. I don't want to know all of them. No, in a good day, I will go bishop, or in a normal day, I'll go bishop d6. Why? My bishop here is super active. Maybe bishop g4 in the future. Maybe c6, queen c7. Maybe sometimes c6, bishop b8, queen d6, and creating this battery against the king because clearly white is going to castle short. But already I created imbalance in this position, which is the isolated pawn here. So I will play bishop e7 because I have something. So this is actually very important. Many of us, like, we have kind of an advantage, but we are looking for other advantages. Why? Already we have something that's calling us to play against the isolated pawn, and one of the key elements to play against the isolated pawn is to have a control over the d5 square. So now after castling, I like my bishop to be here, so my queen is supporting that control, and I'll continue knight bd7, knight b6, knight d5, again bishop e6, bishop f5, bishop g4. Free development. But as I said, it's a rich opening. I'm not going to give any details here, but there is a very interesting line, which is knight c6, and after knight f3, e4, knight d2, queen g5 ideas. Best move for white is take, and then knight g3, queen h3. This is a very, very crazy line. After queen b3, for example, attacking, you're not protecting. Knight f6, bishop f7, king d8. This is for you to study for future, or maybe if you're interested, maybe we can dig deeper in this line. Write me in the comments what openings that you, or if you would like me to dig deeper here. But I will be more than just justified or satisfied with e takes d4. So this is actually e3. Knowing that e3 is, or e3, e5 is there, knight f3, in order to stop this idea of e5, because after e5, I do believe black has no problem at all. Knight f6, e3, and now white is hoping that you will go e6, and then b6, bishop b7, he will take. Sometimes it's kind of a symmetrical position, but white has the like first strike. But here we go, bishop g4 again. We just got our free development. And after bishop c4, e6, in this position, if castling, then you can go like bishop e7, castling, c5, knight c6, and you're completely fine. You have no issues with your development at all. One line, actually, you need not to know, but you need to have the idea that it's there, which is queen b3. And that's why some players avoid this bishop g4. Now queen b7 is coming, knight e5 is annoying. And there is no clear way to protect the pawn. d6 will create weaknesses around the light squares. Queen c8 is kind of shaky on the c5, maybe rook c1 is coming. That's why here in this position, we take on f3 first, protecting b7. And after g takes f3, we said, fine, the pawn is yours, and we go c5. Very accurate move. c5, and after queen takes b7, now we go knight d7. Actually, you can go knight d7 and after queen b7, c5. But what's interesting is that c5, now queen d7 is interesting, following knight c6 and rook d8. For example, if knight c3 in this position, you can simply go queen d7. And after queen d7, say, for example, d5, take, knight c6, rook d8 is coming, bishop e7, castling long, or castling short, or you can actually castle long, which is actually very, very playable. So let's go back and again, a knight f3 to stop this idea of e5, we go bishop, knight f6, and after e3 we go bishop g4. Bishop takes c4, we go e6, and after queen b3, we take first, and then we go c5. And if queen b7, we go knight b d7. First of all, we always have rook b8. Second of all, if we take, so see this structure, this is a very, 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 very bad structure. We go bishop d6, we castled, and then we move the knight, queen have the square of h4. The rook will be joining the game. Sometimes ideas like, very interesting ideas like e5, rook b6, rook h6, rook g6 is coming. So white is practically suffering in this position. In computer-wise, maybe slightly better for white, slightly better for black, it doesn't matter. But in practical game of chess, probably you will win 2 of 3 games you will play this position. So this is actually for knight f3. Other moves are e4 right away. This is actually not a recommended move. It's kind of a shaky center because you have e5, you have c5, again, very rich opening. But I recommend you knight f6. Knight f6 attacking e4 pawn, and the best way for white is to go e5 in this position, and after e5, knight d5, bishop takes e4, we simply go bishop f5. Again, knight e6. Again, we don't want to have development issues. If you have development issues, probably you will be suffering, you will hate your chess, you will hate yourself, you will hate your opponent, you will hate everybody around, and you will lose the game. But if you have happy development, if you have development, free development, then even if your position got worse, at least your pieces are alive. And as they said, help your pieces, so your pieces will help you. So after bishop f5, for example, knight f3, simple development like e6, bishop e7, queen b e2, castling, and then knight c6, maybe queen d7, maybe rook a d1. You're completely fine. You can strike in the center using this pawn if you would like to, like knight c b4, for example, c5. You have a very good square over the d5 square. Also, d4 pawn is weak. Actually, one line here, which is interesting for white, is queen b3. And it seems very strong move, attacking on b7, and knight b6 is not there because of bishop takes f7. You might lose the game on the spot. But what's interesting about this line is that here you have a very interesting move, which is c6. And guess what? If queen b7 is played, which is actually played almost 1k times, black is almost winning with this move, knight b6. And the queen now is trapped. Rook is protected, bishop c8 is coming, and you're completely winning. So if this line doesn't work, then you could simply go queen b6 probably next, maybe e6 even. Sometimes you sacrifice actually a pawn in order to get the light squared bishop, so you're completely fine. For example, I think there is a line which is bishop takes d5, c takes d5, now queen takes b7. There's this queen c8 interesting move, attacking on c1 and threatening the queen. And if you take, yes, you are a pawn up, but see how strong this bishop along this diagonal is. Very strong, super strong. And you have the bishop pair. Yeah, the king is coming, rooks will be coming as the Binko Gambit actually compensation. So this is actually for e4, and the last move is knight c3. If knight c3, always remember this a6 idea. You wanted to go b5 in order to support the pawn. If a4 now in this position, in order to stop this idea of b5 not being a pawn down. Because see, after I go b5, I can simply, for example, knight f3, b5. I can simply go bishop b7. I solved the problem of the bishop. I am a pawn up. Sometimes b4 is annoying. Knight f6 is coming. e6, bishop e7, knight b d7. You are completely fine. Free development you do have, and a pawn up. And probably you will be winning the game. That's why here a4 is to be coming, but after a4 again e5 in this position. Almost always this is a bad move because I exchange queens, and then knight c6, my bishop come to e6. I will be castling. e5 pawn probably is weakened, under fire, and you're completely fine. Not fine actually. Black is better in these positions, having at least a better development. So after e5, say for example d5 now, I simply go knight f6, and after e4 in order to gain the pawn back, simply bishop b4. Now the knight is under the pin, knight e4 is a threat, saying that f3 to protect it, but now c6 again. We're attacking the center one more times. It feels like black is white and white is black. Black is attacking, white is defending, bishop takes c4 defending, but now pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, we just castled, and after knight e2, we complete our development. Bishop f5, knight b d7, queen e7, the rooks will be joining the game, e4 maybe later on, this diagonal is weak, bishop c5 is there, queen b6 might be there, and black is completely fine. It's almost now 15 minutes. I planned it to be 10 minutes, but it's fine. 15 minutes for to get rid of Queen's Gambit Accepted. It's very fine. I do believe this is very, very, very good knowledge up to 2000 or 2000 yes, fide rating. If you have this knowledge, then you can play a good game of chess and you can get a good opening up to 2005 rating. Online, probably up to 2300, 2400, something around that. If you like this idea and if you like this content, please subscribe and help me in the comments what openings you wanted to see next, and I will have ideas what my subscribers, what my friends wanted to see next. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Have a nice one.